The rain didn't fall, it felt like the sky was spitting on us. It was a cold, gray Tuesday in November, the kind of day that settles in your bones and refuses to leave. We were standing on the wet grass of the Green Lawn Cemetery, a sea of black umbrellas and hushed, performative grief. I stood alone at the foot of the small, white casket. My daughter. My beautiful, vibrant, 7-year-old Maya. She was gone. A sudden, catastrophic asthma attack, the official report had said. Cardiac arrest induced by respiratory failure. A tragedy. An act of God. Or so everyone thought. Before we exhume the truth and serve justice cold, if you believe that the truth always leaves a trace, no matter how hard someone tries to scrub it away, hit that subscribe button. Join us. We tell stories for the ones who examine the evidence. Now, let's get into the story. Across the open grave stood my ex-husband, Councilman Marcus King. He was flanked by his entourage, his campaign manager, his security, and his new fiancée, a sleek, 20-something model named Jasmine. Marcus looked the part of the grieving father perfectly. He dabbed his eyes with a silk handkerchief, leaning heavily on Jasmine for support, accepting the condolences of the mayor and the city commissioners. He was using our daughter's funeral as a campaign stop. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My grief was a stone in my throat, too large to swallow, too heavy to spit out. I stood with my back straight, my hands clasped in front of me, staring at the wood that separated me from my baby girl. Then, the service ended. The crowd began to disperse, murmuring their sympathies. Marcus walked over to me. He didn't come to comfort me. He came to destroy me. He stopped 3 feet away, his voice loud enough to carry over the wind, loud enough for his wealthy donors and the lingering press to hear. "You should have been there, Mia," he said, his voice trembling with a staged rage. "If you weren't so obsessed with your job, maybe you would have noticed she was wheezing. Maybe you would have found her inhaler." The crowd went silent. The cameras turned. "Marcus," I whispered, "this isn't the place." "This is exactly the place," he shouted, stepping closer, invading my space. "Look at her. Look at what your negligence did. You're useless. It's your fault our daughter is gone." The accusation hung in the damp air like toxic smoke. My family, my mother, my sisters, gasped, stepping forward to defend me, but I held up a hand to stop them. Marcus smirked. A tiny, micro-expression that only I saw. He thought he had won. He thought he had successfully painted me as the negligent, career-obsessed woman who let her child die, securing his sympathy vote for the upcoming election. He thought I was broken. He forgot who I was. My name is Dr. Nia King. To Marcus, I was just an annoyance he had divorced 2 years ago. But to the state of Georgia, I am the chief forensic toxicologist. I don't just look at bodies. I look at the molecular truths they leave behind. I know the difference between an accident and a murder. I know that asthma attacks don't cause the specific pattern of petechial hemorrhaging I had seen on Maya's eyelids in the morgue, before Marcus had blocked the autopsy, claiming religious objections. I looked at him. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile that didn't reach my eyes. "You're right, Marcus," I said, my voice calm, carrying clearly through the silence. "I should have been closer. But I'm close now." I leaned in, so only he could hear the edge in my voice. "Enjoy your campaign. We'll see us in court." He blinked, confused by my lack of emotion, but he quickly recovered, sneering at me before turning back to his adoring public. He walked away, leaving me by the grave. He never imagined that I would discover the truth about our little girl's death. The hook was set. Marcus thought the story ended in the ground. He didn't know I had already begun the counterattack. I waited until everyone left. Until the groundskeepers began to lower the casket. Then, I walked to my car. I didn't go home to weep. I drove straight to my lab. The hidden secret suspense was not just about how she died. It was about what was in her system. Marcus had blocked the official autopsy. He used his political pull to have the coroner, a man named Dr. Vance, who owed Marcus favors, rule it natural causes. But Marcus made a mistake. He forgot that I am the one who signs the supply requisitions for the morgue. He forgot that the night Maya died, the on-call technician was Andre, a young man I had mentored for 5 years. I swiped my badge at the secure entrance of the state crime lab. The air was cool and smelled of ozone and chemicals. It was the smell of truth. I walked into my private office and locked the door. I opened the safe behind my desk. Inside, sitting on a sterile tray, were 3 vials of blood and a small tissue sample. Andre had taken them for me, off the books, before Dr. Vance had released the body to the funeral home. "I'm sorry, baby," I whispered to the vials. "Mommy has to do this." I wasn't investigating an asthma attack. I was hunting a killer. Maya's asthma had been mild. Controlled. She hadn't used her rescue inhaler in 6 months. And yet, Marcus claimed she had gasped for air for 20 minutes before her heart stopped. He claimed the inhaler wasn't working. I placed the blood sample into the mass spectrometer. The machine began to hum, breaking down the chemical composition of my daughter's lifeblood. While the machine worked, I pulled up Marcus's financials. I am not a hacker, but I know people who are. I had hired a forensic accountant weeks ago, the moment Marcus started buying new billboards for his campaign after claiming poverty during our child support hearings. The report had come in this morning. Councilman Marcus King was broke. Or he should have been. His gambling debts were astronomical. He owed money to people who didn't send overdue notices, they sent broken bones. But 3 days before Maya died, a new policy had been taken out. A life insurance rider on Maya. For $5 million. And the beneficiary was the King Campaign Fund. It was motive. It was ugly, raw, and monstrous. But it wasn't proof of murder. A jury would say he was just a grieving father who had been prudent with insurance. I needed the weapon. The mass spectrometer beeped. The results appeared on the screen. I scanned the chemical peaks. Albuterol, asthma meds trace amounts. Cortisol, stress hormone high. And then, a spike. A massive, jagged peak in the graph that shouldn't be there. I zoomed in. Succinylcholine. My breath hitched. Succinylcholine. A paralytic. It's used in anesthesia to relax muscles during surgery. It breaks down in the body incredibly fast, making it nearly impossible to detect unless you look for it immediately and know exactly what you are hunting. But it doesn't just relax muscles. In a conscious person, it paralyzes the diaphragm. It stops you from breathing. It mimics a severe asthma attack. But Maya hadn't had surgery. Someone had injected her. Or. I looked at the other peaks. There was a high concentration of nebulized saline. The inhaler. Someone hadn't just given her a broken inhaler. They had spiked her nebulizer solution with a paralytic agent. When she felt tight-chested, she would have reached for the machine to breathe. And the machine would have suffocated her. I fell back into my chair, a sob finally escaping my throat. It was a guttural sound of pure agony. He didn't just watch her die. He administered it. He used the very device meant to save her life to kill her, all to pay off his gambling debts and fund his run for Senate. I stared at the screen. This was it. The smoking gun. But I couldn't just go to the police. The police chief was Marcus's golf partner. The district attorney was endorsing his campaign. If I handed this over now, the evidence would disappear. The sample would be contaminated. They would say I forged the results in my grief. I needed more. I needed him to say it. I needed him to confess. And I needed to do it in a way that his powerful friends couldn't bury. I wiped my eyes. The grieving mother was gone. Dr. Nia King, the toxicologist, was in control. I picked up my phone. I called Detective Bishop. He was internal affairs. He was the only cop in the city Marcus hated, because Bishop had tried to bust him for bribery 2 years ago and failed. "Bishop," I said when he answered. "Dr. King? I heard about Maya. I'm so sorry." "Save it, Andre," I said, my voice hard. "I have a sample. I have a toxin. And I have a motive. Marcus killed her." There was a silence on the line. Then, the rustle of movement. "Where are you?" Bishop asked. "I'm at the lab. But I'm leaving. I'm going to the Campaign Victory Gala tomorrow night. The one Marcus is hosting to launch his Senate run. Nia, don't do anything stupid. If you have proof, bring it to me." "I can't give you the proof, Andre. They'll bury it. I need him to give it to me." "How?" "He thinks I'm useless," I said, staring at the chemical breakdown of my daughter's murder. "He thinks I'm weak. I'm going to show him just how useful I can be." I hung up. I opened my drawer and pulled out a specialized kit. A wire. A micro camera disguised as a brooch. And a small, sealed vial of clear liquid. It wasn't poison. I am not a murderer. It was a mimic. A chemical compound I had developed for training police dogs. It smelled, faintly, exactly like the metabolic breakdown of succinylcholine. To a human, it smelled like nothing. But to a guilty conscience? It would smell like fear. I went home. I walked into Maya's room. It was untouched. Her stuffed elephant was on the bed. I sat on her bed and made a promise. "Daddy wants to be a senator, baby," I whispered to the empty room. "He wants to be famous. I'm going to make him famous. I'm going to make him the most famous father in the world." The red dot on the dashboard GPS pulsed, moving erratically through the downtown traffic. Marcus was driving like a man possessed. "He's not going home," Detective Bishop said, his hand steady on the wheel of the unmarked sedan. "He's heading toward the North District. Old money. Quiet streets. He's going to his mother's," I said, watching the dot. "Ms. Etta. She's the only person in the world he trusts. She's the one who taught him that consequences are for other people." My mind was racing, processing the data from the gala. Marcus had panicked. The chemical trigger, the scent of the preservative, had worked. He believed I had the receipt. He believed I had the physical proof of his purchase. His logical brain had shut down, hijacked by his amygdala. He was in flight mode. And when a criminal flees, they go to their stash to sanitize it. We followed him from a distance. He pulled up to a large, Victorian house with peeling paint and overgrown ivy, the crumbling seat of the King family dynasty. Marcus slammed his car door and ran up the steps. The porch light flickered on. Ms. Etta opened the door in her nightgown. Even from the street, I could see the frantic energy, the way he pushed past her into the safety of the house. "He's going for the evidence," I said, unbuckling my seatbelt. "Nia, wait," Bishop grabbed my arm. "We can't just kick the door down. We don't have a warrant for this address. If we go in there and find nothing, or if we find it illegally, it gets thrown out of court. He walks." "I know the law, Andre," I said, my voice cold. "I don't need a warrant. I have a key." I held up a tarnished brass key on my keychain. "I never gave it back. Etta forgot I had it. She thinks I'm too useless to remember things like that." "That's still breaking and entering if you're not a resident," Bishop warned. "Not if I'm invited," I said. I pulled out my phone. I texted Marcus. "I know you're at your mother's. I'm coming over. We need to talk about a settlement. If you refuse, I send the receipt to the press." 3 seconds later, the reply came. "Come alone. Back door." "He wants to negotiate," Bishop said. "Or he wants to ambush you." "He wants to buy time," I corrected. "He thinks he can pay me off while his mother destroys the evidence in the background. He thinks I'm greedy. He doesn't realize I'm not here for money. I'm here for the autopsy, he blocked. I put a small earpiece in my ear. Stay on the comms, Andre. If you hear a scream, come in. If I hear a scream, I'm coming in shooting, Bishop promised. I walked through the wet grass to the backyard. The kitchen light was on. Through the window, I saw them. Marcus was pacing, pouring himself a drink with shaking hands. Ms. Etta was standing by the old, cast-iron wood stove in the kitchen, a relic she refused to replace. She was holding a metal lockbox. She was feeding papers into the fire. My heart slammed against my ribs. They were burning it. I knocked on the back door. Ms. Etta jumped. She shoved the lockbox into a cabinet and smoothed her nightgown. Marcus took a deep breath, put on his arrogant mask, and opened the door. You have a lot of nerve, he spat, though his eyes were darting around, checking the yard for police. And you have a lot of debt, I countered, stepping inside. The kitchen smelled of wood smoke and something else. A faint, chemical tang. Chlorine. Ms. Etta had been cleaning. Bleaching something. Where is the receipt, Nia? Marcus demanded. Show it to me. It's in a safe place, I lied. Where is the rest of it, Marcus? The vial? The needle? Did you keep them as souvenirs? I don't know what you're talking about, he sneered. But if you want money to go away, fine. I can get you 50,000. Cash. Tonight. 50,000? I laughed. It was a dry, sharp sound. You took a $5 million policy out on our daughter, and you offer me 50,000? You really are cheap. Ms. Etta stepped forward. You take the money, girl. You take it and you leave this city. You were never good enough for him. You let that baby die. I let her die? I turned to the old woman. I wasn't the one who swapped her nebulizer solution. Etta's eyes flickered. Just a fraction. She knew. She wasn't just protecting him after the fact. She knew how he did it. Marcus, I said, turning back to him. I don't want your money. I want a confession. You tell me the truth, right now, and I walk away. I won't go to the cops. I just want to know, why? Was the debt that bad? Marcus looked at me. He looked at his mother. He looked at the cabinet where the lockbox was hidden. It wasn't just the debt, he whispered, his facade cracking. It was the timeline. The election. I needed the sympathy vote now. And the money clears the debt so I can run clean. He took a step toward me. She was weak, Nia. She had asthma. She was going to struggle her whole life. I made it quick. I freed her. I felt the bile rise in my throat. He justified murdering our child as an act of mercy. You freed her, I repeated, my voice trembling with rage. I did what I had to do, he shouted. And now you're going to ruin it. Give me the receipt. He lunged for my clutch. I stepped back. No. Grab her, Ma, he yelled. Ms. Etta, surprisingly strong for her age, grabbed my arms from behind. Marcus ripped the clutch from my hands. He tore it open. He found the handkerchief. He found the lipstick. But he didn't find a receipt. Where is it? He screamed, throwing the bag on the floor. I lied, I said, struggling against Etta's grip. There is no receipt. I don't need one. You just confessed. Confessed to what? Marcus laughed, a manic, terrifying sound. To you? Who's going to believe you? The crazy ex-wife? It's hearsay. Is it? I asked. I looked at the cabinet. You think you're safe because you burned the papers, I said. But you didn't burn the vial, did you? You couldn't. Glass doesn't burn. And you're too scared to throw it in the trash. I looked at Ms. Etta. You bleached it, I said, recognizing the smell now. You washed the vial in bleach to kill the DNA. And then, you hid it. Etta's grip loosened. She was shocked. How? I'm a toxicologist, I said. I know how people try to clean up poisons. But here's the thing about bleach, Etta. It destroys DNA, yes. But it reacts with succinylcholine. It turns it into a yellow, crystallized precipitate. It doesn't erase it. It highlights it. I broke free from her grip. I walked to the cabinet. Marcus blocked my path. Don't touch that. Or what? I asked. You'll kill me too? Here? Now? With your mother watching? If I have to, he snarled. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a knife. A small, folding pocket knife. Marcus, no. Etta screamed. She's not leaving here, Marcus said, his eyes dead. She knows too much. He stepped toward me. Drop the knife, Marcus, I said calmly. No. Drop it. The back door smashed inward. Detective Bishop stood there, gun drawn. Police. Drop the weapon. Marcus froze. He looked at Bishop. He looked at me. He looked at the knife. It's over, Marcus, Bishop said. Put it down. Marcus dropped the knife. He raised his hands. She broke in, he yelled. She attacked my mother. I was defending her. Bishop ignored him. He walked over to the cabinet. He opened it. He pulled out the lockbox. It was unlocked. Inside, sitting on a bed of velvet, was a small, glass vial. It was empty, but coated in a distinct, yellow crust. And next to it, was a cell phone. Not Marcus's phone. A burner. Well, Bishop said. What do we have here? That's not mine. Marcus shouted. She planted it. Bishop bagged the evidence. We'll see. They arrested Marcus. Again. This time for assault with a deadly weapon and violation of a restraining order, which Bishop had quietly filed an hour ago. Ms. Etta wasn't arrested. Not yet. She stood in the kitchen, weeping, watching her son get hauled away. You ruined him, she hissed at me. He ruined himself, I said. I just turned on the lights. I left the house. Bishop drove me back to the lab. We have the vial, Bishop said. If the lab confirms that yellow crust is the reaction product of succinylcholine and bleach, we have the murder weapon. It will confirm it, I said. I know the chemistry. But the phone, Bishop said, placing the bagged burner phone on my desk. That's the wild card. Why did he keep a burner phone in a safe with the murder weapon? I looked at the phone. It was a cheap, prepaid model. Power it up, I said. Bishop plugged it in. It buzzed to life. There was only one number in the contact list. Labeled, J. And there was one text thread. Marcus, it's done. She's gone. The asthma story held. J, good. The transfer is initiated. Money hits your offshore on Monday. Don't screw up the funeral. Marcus, I won't. When can I see you? J, when the check clears. Patience, darling. J, Bishop whispered. Jasmine. The fiancée. The model. The woman who had stood by him at the grave. She's not just a fiancée, I realized, a cold horror washing over me. She's the funding. She's the one paying off his debts. She paid him to kill Maya. Why? Bishop asked. Why would a model pay to kill a child? Because she's not a model, I said, grabbing my tablet and running a facial recognition search on Jasmine. The search results came back. Her name wasn't Jasmine. It was Jasmine Jazz Vance. She wasn't his girlfriend. She was his cousin. His estranged, third cousin from the side of the family that controlled the Vance Trust. The trust, I whispered. Marcus's grandfather left a trust. It pays out to the surviving heirs. But it skips a generation. It goes to the grandchildren. I looked at Bishop. Maya was the heir. Maya was set to inherit $10 million on her 18th birthday. And if she dies? Bishop asked. It reverts to the next living heir, I said. I pointed at the screen. It reverts to Jasmine. Marcus hadn't just killed her for the insurance money. He had conspired with his cousin to kill his own daughter so Jasmine could inherit the family fortune, pay off his debts, and they could split the rest. It was a blood sacrifice. We have them, Bishop said. We have the conspiracy. No, I said. We have a text thread on a burner phone. Jasmine will deny it. She'll say Marcus stole her phone. She'll say he's lying. She has high-priced lawyers. She'll walk. So what do we do? He shouted at me at the funeral, I said, my eyes narrowing. He said we'll see us in court. He wants a fight? I'll give him one. I looked at Bishop. Release Marcus. What? Release him on bail. Let him think he got away with the assault charge. Let him think the vial was inconclusive. Let him think the phone is encrypted and we can't read it. Why? Because, I said, I need them to be together. I need them to feel safe. I need them to go to the courthouse on Monday for the campaign announcement he's still planning to make. He thinks he can still win the election if he spins this right. And then? And then, I said, I'm going to introduce them to the real autopsy report. Live. On camera. Monday morning broke with a sky the color of a bruise. The steps of the county courthouse were transformed into a stage. Banners waved, reading King for Senate, Faith, Family, Future. A podium stood at the top of the stairs, surrounded by the press, local dignitaries, and a crowd of voters who still believed the lie. I stood at the back of the crowd, hidden by a large pillar and a black umbrella. Detective Bishop was beside me, his hand resting casually near his holster. We weren't the only ones. Scattered through the crowd, disguised as tourists and campaign staffers, were a dozen state troopers and federal agents. At 10 a.m. sharp, Marcus walked out. He looked magnificent. He was wearing a charcoal suit that cost more than my car. He looked rested, confident, the very image of resilience. And on his arm, looking every inch the support of future First Lady, was Jasmine. She was wearing white. Innocence. Purity. They held hands. They waved. The crowd cheered. Marcus stepped to the microphone. Thank you, he said, his voice thick with practiced emotion. Thank you all. As you know, this has been the hardest week of my life. Losing my daughter, Maya, it broke me. He paused for effect. Jasmine squeezed his hand, looking adoringly at him. But, he continued, his voice rising, it also woke me up. It reminded me that we have to fight. We have to fight for our children. We have to fight for a safer world. That is why, despite the pain, despite the false accusations thrown at me by a bitter, unstable ex-wife, I am announcing my candidacy for the United States Senate. The cheers were deafening. He was winning. He was spinning the narrative perfectly. My opponent wants you to believe lies, Marcus shouted. But I stand here with the truth. I stand here with family. Which family, Marcus? My voice wasn't loud, but I had connected my phone to the localized Bluetooth of the PA system, a trick my tech team at the lab had set up earlier that morning. My voice boomed out of the massive speakers, drowning out the applause. Marcus froze. The crowd fell silent, looking around confused. Who said that? Marcus snapped, looking at the sound technician, who was frantically typing on his console, locked out of his own system. I stepped out from behind the pillar. I lowered my umbrella. I walked up the center aisle of the crowd. I did, I said. Marcus gripped the podium. Mia. You're violating a restraining order. Security. Get her out of here. Two security guards moved toward me. Step back. Detective Bishop shouted, flashing his badge and stepping in front of me. State Police. This witness has the floor. I walked up the stairs. I stopped 10 feet from Marcus and Jasmine. You talk about family, Marcus, I said, holding a thick file in my hand. You talk about faith. But you forgot about science. You're crazy, Jasmine hissed, her poise cracking. Get away from us. Hello, Jasmine, I said calmly. Or should I call you Jazz? It's a cute nickname. Does it remind you of the trust fund? Her face went white. I turned to the crowd. I turned to the cameras, which were now live streaming to every news channel in the state. This man, I pointed to Marcus, is not a grieving father. He is a murderer. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He claims our daughter died of asthma. But this, I held up a document, is the real toxicology report. The one he tried to block. The one that shows lethal levels of succinylcholine in her blood. A paralytic agent. He poisoned our daughter to collect a $5 million life insurance policy. Lies. Marcus screamed, sweat pouring down his face. She forged it. She's a toxicologist. She planted it. And the receipt? I asked. The one you looked for in your pocket? Did I plant that in your mind? I turned to the big screen behind him, the one meant to show his campaign slogan. Instead, it showed a text thread. Marcus, it's done. She's gone. Jay, good. The transfer is initiated. This, I said, is the conversation between Marcus King and his fiancée, Jasmine. Found on a burner phone hidden in his mother's safe. Next to the vial of poison. The crowd was recoiling now, a physical wave of revulsion moving through them. But why? I asked into the silence. Why kill his own child? I looked at Jasmine. Because of the Vance Trust. I clicked a button on my phone. The screen changed to a family tree. A genealogy chart. Marcus King is the grandson of Silas Vance. Jasmine is the granddaughter of Silas's brother. They aren't strangers. They aren't just lovers. I looked directly into the camera. They are cousins. The sound the crowd made was a collective retch of disgust. The trust only pays out to the surviving heir, I explained. Maya was the heir. She stood in their way. So Marcus killed his daughter, so he could split the money with his cousin. Marcus looked at the crowd. He saw the horror. He saw the ruin. He looked at Jasmine. She was backing away from him, shaking her head. I didn't know, she shrieked. He told me it was an accident. He told me she was sick. You texted him, don't screw up the funeral. I shouted back. You funded it. You paid off his gambling debts so he would do the dirty work. Marcus snapped. The pressure, the lies, the public unveiling of his monstrosity, it broke him. It was her idea, he screamed, pointing a shaking finger at Jasmine. She told me how to do it. She said Maya wouldn't feel a thing. She said we needed the money. The confession echoed across the square. Thank you, Marcus, Detective Bishop said, stepping up to the microphone. That's all we needed. Troopers swarmed the stage. They didn't do it gently. Marcus was tackled to the ground. Jasmine tried to run, her white heels slipping on the wet stairs, but she was grabbed and cuffed before she reached the bottom. Ms. Etta, who had been sitting in the front row, tried to blend into the crowd, but 2 officers were waiting for her. Accessory after the fact, ma'am. Let's go. As they dragged Marcus away, he locked eyes with me. I'm the councilman, he roared, delirious. I am the future. You are a statistic, I said coldly. And you are the past. The resolution was total. The trial was the most watched event in state history. The evidence was overwhelming. The toxicology report, the burner phone, the chemical residue on the vial, the genealogy records, and finally, Marcus's own public confession. Marcus King was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was sent to a maximum security facility where his charm would buy him nothing. Jasmine Vance received 25 years for conspiracy to commit murder. Ms. Etta received 10 years for obstruction of justice and tampering with evidence. The Vance Trust was dissolved by the courts. The money, the millions they had killed for, was seized under the Slayer rule, which prevents a killer from inheriting from their victim. But my legacy was not about the money. It was about the law. I didn't just go back to the lab. I went to the state capitol. I used the momentum of the case, and the public outrage, to draft a new bill. Maya's Law. It mandates that in any case of the sudden, unexplained death of a minor, a forensic autopsy is mandatory and cannot be blocked by parental objection, religious exemption, or political pressure. It also requires mandatory toxicology screenings for a wider range of paralytics and poisons in all pediatric deaths. I ran for the office Marcus wanted. Not the Senate. I ran for state coroner. I won. Unopposed. My transformation is complete. I am no longer the useless wife in the background. I am the highest medical authority in the state. I oversee every death investigation. I ensure that no child is ever buried with their secrets. I sit in my office, overlooking the city. On my desk is a framed photo of Maya. She is smiling. I didn't just get justice for her. I built a shield for every other child who might come after her. Marcus told me I was useless. He told me it was my fault. He was wrong. I was the only one who could hear what the dead were saying. And I made sure the whole world heard them too. What this story teaches us is that the truth is written in our very cells. You can burn the papers, you can wash the vials, you can fake the tears, but you cannot fool the science. And you can certainly never, ever fool a mother. If you believe in justice that goes beyond the courtroom, hit that like button. And subscribe to this channel, because we fight for the truth, one story at a time. We'll see you in the next one.